Kristen Stewart has this boring life where it's all going to be a waste anyway. She works at the bowling alley and she smokes and she's sad when this ethereal, gorgeous, strong woman comes into her life. Oh, she doesn't work at a bowling alley. She works at a gym. Sorry, the whole freaking movie's about bodybuilding. Works at a gym.
Is important to note though that this is the kind of town. This is the kind of town where the gym feels like a bowling alley. So you're not wrong.
I appreciate that
because I literally didn't blink. I was like, "Yep, she works at a bowling alley."
It's a gym that like reminds you of a bowling alley. She works at a bowling alley gym, and this beautiful, ethereal vagabond wanderer appears in her life. But their sordid pasts catch up with them, and they commit crimes. They commit murder, and they commit a bunch of things. And Katy O'Brian, the bodybuilder, dating Kristen Stewart, gets really into steroids and suffers terrible roid rage and murders people. So, I mean, look, hey, a lot of good, like, folks at home are probably saying, I got to see this Levelized Bleeding.
You have to see Levelized Bleeding.
What did you think of Levelized Bleeding?
All right, I want to take a step back because that was an excellent synopsis. Everyone's caught up on the basic premise of Levelized Bleeding. It's also a movie you have to see to believe. You know, the premise doesn't, because it's a movie with a very strong aesthetic and a style and an incredible score and color scheme and lighting. So it's a movie that sort of transcends its log line. But the performances were a little uneven. The third act has kind of a rough stretch where the movie almost completely falls apart. But even with that, like, it's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but it is a bold movie. It is a movie that is strong and vivid in its aesthetic. It has an incredible score. It has a vision, and it has some really committed, interesting performances. And so this is the kind of cinema I love to live in and live through.
I want to talk about the director of this film, Rose Glass. So because of what Brett's saying, because the themes Rose plays with, her aesthetic, her style, her panache, her vibrancy, her ballsiness, I'm thinking that I can't miss one of her films until she drops the ball. I loved Saint Maud, which was her first film. It's a horror movie about a young woman who takes care of the sick that sort of has this exorcisty sort of love interest in this dying woman who she tries to save her soul via finding Christ. And that movie is scary and wonderful and has interesting parallels to the sort of, let's call it a sophomore slump, but it's one of those sophomore slumps that's so stylish you'd go see it at midnight with your friends in 10 years. It's wonderful. Love Lies Bleeding, but she has this really great filmmaking sense as well. And one of my favorite things Rose does, whether it's the horror of Saint Maud or it's the sort of tension building moments of Love Lies Bleeding, is she uses supernatural elements or moments of fantasy like little drops in her movies, but they pack a punch of 1,000 punches.
Absolutely.
They are amazing. When they shoot Katy O'Brian up with steroids, you hear in this sort of body horror-esque, Hulk-esque fashion, her bones and muscles expanding, crunching as she hulks up. And it happens in such a tight flash of sound and imagery. It's so intense. And this is what she does. She is so delicate with where she places her horror moments or her fantasy moments or supernaturalism. But when she puts it there, she commits to it with 1,000% sort of assuredness. And it really, really works.
I tried to condense this movie to like a log line because it's doing so many things. It's so gorgeous. And I came up with roid rage as lesbian revenge fantasy was my quick log line, which I feel like kind of sums it up if you're trying to understand what this movie is about. It has such a like committed, dynamic queer aesthetic that makes you my first thought was like, wait, Bound was like 1995, right? I was like, why? Like between Bound and Love Lies Bleeding, why haven't we had a fucking 100 movies like this? They like it has such like a, speaking of like cinema being the projection of desire and fantasy, this movie reminded me something that is obvious and we all know, but this movie reminds you of it so powerfully that like we all win when there is no limits on what kind of fantasies and desires are being projected. When cinema gets liberated from the male gaze and from strictly sort of like hetero fantasies and hetero desires, we all win because these movies are this movie is dynamic, it has conviction, the sexuality and the desire is so fresh and so authentic. And I think part of that is because this is a director who is like angry that more movies are not like this. You know, it's that outburst of like, there should be more of this. There should be more movies like this. And that outburst of that kind of energy is so exciting to watch.
Also, just to say it, you know, the hottest thing in the world is just apparently it's just Kristen Stewart smoking a cigarette. Like I could watch that until the cows come home.
I have a couple like that. I have Kristen Stewart smoking,
My God.
Doing steroids in the butt. is
know.
amazing.
Lord have mercy.
The dude who deals the steroids deals them out of a fanny pack in the gym, which I loved. Katy O'Brian works at a bar at a shooting range in Texas, which is an amazing like all the like talk about as bad as the specifics were in Ricky Stenicki, all the specifics in Love Lies Bleeding are perfect.
Ed Harris is a bug guy.
And
at one point he eats a bug out of anger. Sorry, Brett, I had to steal that one from you.
No,
and
like
Harris
the
plays a
mummy
crazy
and the
old
mummy,
bug.
as we'll see later.
He does the thing in the mummy. He eats a bug because he's so mad. It's great.
There is the rejoice everyone because fingering finally has its like masterpiece scene. Like there's never been like every sex act has its like one masterpiece scene, and now I think this movie has the ultimate fingering scene.
Yeah.
It is. So now fingering has its masterpiece scene thanks to Love Lies Bleeding. Dave Franco, LOL.
Dave Franco has a crazy mullet in this. It's worth mentioning the mullet. An insane mullet.
Dave Franco got to be in Spring Breakers. He got his Spring Breakers for like 10 minutes. And then there is a moment, though, we're getting a little spoilery, which we should be careful about.
Well,
but like,
I think okay.
It's a new movie, though. So let's be like, like, I will say there is a moment where like, you know, Dave Franco is like not just gonna go down, but it's gonna go down hard, and then you start counting. Start counting the minutes until it happens, and when it happens, it happens. He goes down hard.
Well, spoiler alert.
Spoilers, but like this movie is about the experience. This is one of those movies that is about the experience of experiencing it. So it is not like you can't spoil this movie because I can't communicate to you what is good about it. Yeah, I can just tell you, I can tell you the plot, but you have to see the colors and you have to feel the music and feel the heat of these of the bodies in this movie to really understand.
I'll put it this way.
Yes,
Kristen Stewart and Katy O'Brian have sex in this movie. So you know you take it from there, folks. Do you think that that's something you'd like to see or not or whatever? We suggest you go check it out. Very sexy. Rose Glass. Oh my God.
You're doing it, Rose.
So
You're doing it.
Oh, like the old gymist. You know what's really hot? Like blowing cigarette smoke through your nose. An old gym, like boxing shorts.
The movies are back. The movies are back. This movie is fucking gutsy, and again, for its little hiccups here and there, I freaking loved it, and I can't wait to see more from this director.
Ding. My note is that like sometimes it strives. I couldn't tell. Are you striving for melodrama or drama? And then it just sort of relies on the camp element to sort of save whatever your feelings are about that. I think the truth of the matter is that the love story between the two didn't ultimately click. So when at the third act, when Kristen Stewart's sort of defending her Frankenstein, I don't know. It just seemed a little forced for me.
There was a missing element. Like late act 2, early, there was something missing. There was either like a change of location that could have happened, or an additional plot point, or so. There was like a missing engine in the plot that they had to sort of ride over, and it got sort of messy for a second. But then I thought like the final 10-15 minutes they landed the plane.
Well, I love the bodybuilding contest.
I agree.
That part was awesome. I think it's about their relationship started to become silly.
It needed something else.
But it should have leaned in more. I couldn't tell. And then I guess maybe Rose Glass was sitting here. She'd be like, you can't tell if it was silly. At the end, she turns into a giant and smushes it. So maybe it is going for melodrama. didn't 100% get there for me. A lot of tittering in my theater. Everyone liked the film, but people were sort of rolling their eyes by the end. And this was a home crowd, the movie theater I saw it with. So, you know, mixed bag. Love the movie.
This is what I like about it, though, is it's a movie that I'm talking about passionately and I'm in favor of, and I can totally see people not liking it. And that's what's exciting about it, is I can see I can totally get people not liking it, and I could totally like I could listen to and understand like a criticism of the movie, you know, like, and that's why it's a fucking good movie. Like if you told me you liked Ricky Stenicki,
right,
I would like walk you off the pier. I would push you into the ocean.
You'd be like an 11-year-old boy.
Yes, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Right. What's wrong with your brain? But this movie's exciting because it can entertain multiple takes, multiple opinions, and overall it's good for movies.